tens of thousands of people since Justin Trudeau tweeted out hashtag welcome to Canada in 2017 have illegally crossed the border from very safe spaces like upstate New York and claimed asylum or protected status in Canada. So this has been a huge problem that many of you have heard me talk about for over 2 years now. Certainly this is something I'm very concerned about. The Conservative Party is putting forward very strong plans to try and address this abuse of our asylum system. But what Justin Trudeau has done to address this is not a lot. In fact, he has made the situation worse. But one of the things that he did this past summer was appoint a new minister to be in charge of this issue. And that, of course, is Bill Blair. Now, you'll remember that Bill Blair, after the committee hearing that we had this summer with him, proved that he was the minister of nothing because he doesn't have any sort of agency or any people whatsoever that are actually in charge of dealing with Canada's borders, like the RCMP or the CBSA, the Canadian Border Services Agency, actually reporting to him. So Justin Trudeau appointed a minister of nothing to do what? To spin, to communicate that everything was okay. The problem is that this minister of nothing is screwing up even on that pitiful job. So Bill Blair today was out on Global News with Mercedes Stephenson, who asked him a very simple question. Now, he's ostensibly in charge of the illegal border crossing crisis. So Mercedes asked whether the government, or him, since he's supposed to be in charge of this, knew where all of the people who have crossed into the country are, given that statistics shared by officials 2 weeks ago suggest only a couple of hundred have actually been deported. So let me just lay that out for you. We've had tens of thousands of people, so well over 30,000 people, illegally cross the border into Canada, claim asylum, and their asylum claims haven't been processed yet. Let's park that for a second because I want to talk about it. So they're in the country somewhere. And Mercedes Stephenson was just asking Bill Blair, do you know where these people are? Now, here's the problem. This is what Bill Blair just said. He said, we found a very small percentage of them were actually eligible to stay, and the overwhelming majority of those people have left. So, just to be clear, and I'm going to cite another source. So if you want to read this interview, it is on Global News. You can watch the interview. It's sad, but I encourage you to do so just to see what who your tax dollars are paying for and what they're doing. But let's fact check this. So I'm going to quote from Justin Trudeau's own public safety minister, Ralph Goodale's office. So CTV issued an article on August 28th, and in it, a spokesperson for Public Safety Minister Ralph Goodale, a Mr. Scott Bardsley, said the following. Of the asylum claimants who entered Canada irregularly, illegally, since April 2017, Bardsley said that 398 have been removed, but claims the vast majority are still being accessed. So if you have 30,000 plus people illegally enter the country and claim asylum, and only 398, although I've seen different numbers and different sources, I mean, even the Global articles source cites about 200, but let's say, for the sake of argument, it's in the neighborhood of 400 people. That is not the vast majority of people, Bill Blair. So you're either remarkably incompetent and need a calculator because 400 is not a vast majority of 30,000 plus, or you lied to Canadians this morning. It's as simple as that. And you know what? Canadians expect an answer. They expect this situation to be solved because it's not fair to allow tens of thousands of people who, by your own words, likely don't have a valid asylum claim in Canada to stay in Canada or to continue to enter Canada this way. So let's go back to that Immigration Refugee Board number. So this spokesperson for public safety, and Scott, I'm so sorry for you. I mean, I can't imagine having to deal with Bill Blair when he doesn't actually report into your office, but you have the reporting responsibility for this. Like, even though you're a Liberal, I kind of feel sorry for you because this must just be an absolute disaster. I digress. So Bill Blair, you'll remember, was out in the media like about a week ago, actually, September. This was an article published in the Globe and Mail on September the 12th. And it says, Liberals say refugee queue will shrink, but wait times are predicted to rise. So here's another example of Bill Blair either lying or getting it wrong or just not knowing anything about anything. And keep in mind, this is the guy that you're paying, that Justin Trudeau is paying to spin you. So Bill Blair in this article talks, he comes out and says, don't worry, we're spending so much money. The wait times that it's taking for government bureaucrats to process whether or not illegal border crossers have a valid asylum claim, that wait time is shrinking. Even though internal government documents the year prior showed that the wait time on the pace that we were at was scheduled to get to 11 years. So somebody could illegally cross the border into Canada by the government's own internal estimates and have a wait time of up to 11 years while they have access to the resources of the state, given the amount of increase that we're seeing in people illegally crossing the border and claiming asylum. So Bill Blair came out to the Globe and Mail and said, don't worry, this queue is shrinking. However, in the same article, the Immigration Refugee Board themselves said wait times are not expected to decrease, even with the addition of 64 new staff. And why is that? Again, calculator Bill Blair, if you continue to increase the number of people entering into Canada via this system, you're going to what? You're going to continue to increase the wait times. And it's not fair to make Canadians who are paying, an inordinate amount of taxes under your government pay to put more people in the IRB instead of closing the problem to begin with. This is a value judgment on behalf of the Liberal government, who are saying that people who have reached the safety of upstate New York have a right to claim asylum in Canada, in spite of the fact that we have an agreement with the United States, the Safe Third Country Agreement, which is only applies at official points of entry, that says otherwise. This is ridiculous. So you've got this minister of nothing, who Justin Trudeau is paying a huge fat salary with a driver who only has a driver report to him, flat out misleading the Canadian public on two fronts. Now, what is he doing in the House of Commons? As we see with every other debate that Justin Trudeau is, every other file that Justin Trudeau is failing on, NAFTA, public safety, whatever, Justin Trudeau's strategy has been to blame Donald Trump. So if Justin Trudeau, while he's swanning around the world, taking pictures, doing all of these celebrity sort of Kardashian things, instead of serving our community, that's what he's managing to. Anytime Justin Trudeau fails, whose fault is it? It's Donald Trump's fault, right? NAFTA, Donald Trump's fault. Gang violence with firearms, it's the American-style handgun laws that we have in Canada, that we don't have in Canada, but where Bill Blair, and where Justin Trudeau tried to do that with Bill Blair this week, was we got some statistics, the Conservative got some statistics through something called an order paper question. And an order paper question is something where myself, as a member of Parliament, we can question the government or a government department and get official information if they choose to answer it on a specific piece of information. So I had asked the government how many people, or one of my colleagues did, Bernard Genereux, how many people had entered the country, entered Canada from the United States who had official legal status in the United States. And we got a piece of information back saying that 65% of people who had illegally crossed the border from the safety of upstate New York into Canada, then subsequently claimed asylum, 65% of those already had legal status in the United States. I don't know about you, but I find it very difficult to make a case that someone is fleeing persecution from upstate New York. Now, when I asked Bill Blair about this in the House of Commons, whose fault was it? Was it Justin Trudeau's fault that this was happening? Or Bill Blair, even though he's been making a minister's salary for some months now and still can't figure this out? Did he take any sort of personal ownership or responsibility? No, of course not. He brought up some sort of bafflegab about children in cages. You know what? I don't think anyone of any political stripe, regardless of that on your issue, is going to accept this sort of junk anymore. It's just beyond the pale. Like, think about this. That is somebody who has no other responsibility other than to communicate on this file. That's their communication response on this. Now, one more proof point on why Bill Blair fabricated this answer this morning on Global News. So again, we found a small percentage of them were actually eligible to stay, and the overwhelming majority of those people have left. Well, if that was the case, then why are we spending hundreds of millions of dollars on processing work permits for them, on putting them on buses to the Greater Toronto area, on housing them in hotels? If a great majority of them left, Bill, then why do we have a housing shelter crisis in Toronto caused by John Tory's own admission, by the illegal border crossers? This is just crazy. I mean, I don't know how you have Bill, if you're listening or your staff's listening, I mean, you were the chief of police for a major Canadian city. How can you get on national TV and put this tripe out there? I mean, come on. Really? That's how you're going to end your career, is by doing this? No, Canadians deserve better, and I'm sure not going to let you off the hook on this, and they're not either, because they don't buy it. I mean, like, how dumb do you think Canadians are? 300 some, or whatever the number is, of people that were removed is not the overwhelming majority of people. Like, that's just wrong. You should be trying to solve the problem. You should be trying to solve it, not spin it. You are eroding any sort of public confidence in Canada's immigration system, and that is just wrong. Anyway, I'm about to get on a plane to get back to Ottawa. For those of you who were affected by the tornadoes, my thoughts and sympathies are with you. I'm among those who are also without power, so thank you to all of the first responders at Ontario Hydro, or Ottawa Hydro and Hydro One, who are working hard to restore power. But I'm glad the House of Commons is coming back tomorrow, because Bill Blair, you're going to have a rough day. Working hard for you in Calgary, on my way to Ottawa. Have a good day.